Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Relationships. How do you think you would react if you enter your house after picking up something to drink and you find one of your friends being intimate with your fiancé 2 days before the wedding? Well, this one's from user HXC Murph, the day I caught my fiancé cheating 2 days before our wedding. For reference, I'm now 31, male, but this happened in 2014 when I was 26 and my ex-fiancée was 25. Female, let's call her Barb. We met in college and dated for 3 years prior to our engagement, with a wedding date booked by the 4th year. Neither of our parents are well off financially, and she was attending grad school, so the financial responsibility fell on me, which totaled $20,000 that was paid in full 4 days prior to the wedding. Leading up to that nightmare of an evening, we had our typical mid-20s relationship issues with bouts of poor communication, excessive drinking on weekends, and an occasional fight over trivial BS. Aside from that, we had a great relationship and spent a ton of time together figuring out post-college life and planning for our future. As I said above, the wedding and reception venue cashed my check 4 days before the wedding, and the contract stated this was non-refundable. Over 120 guests were confirmed, a couple of dozen from out of state. Tuxes and bridesmaids' dresses were fitted and paid, and everything was falling into place. Now, let's get to the inevitable crapstorm of events that you're all interested in before I keep rambling. The night in question was a Friday evening in our new apartment that we'd move into a few weeks prior, and we decided to have about a dozen friends over to pre-game and head out to the bars in town. Included in this group of friends was my buddy, whom I've known since kindergarten. We'll call him Ricky. Barb and I spent a lot of time with Ricky over the last 3 years, and he was definitely one of my pals, which is generally awesome when your SO gets along with people in your social circle. The night started at a local hookah lounge that was bring your own beer, so by the time we left there, a fifth of Jameson and a 30 rack of Yuengling were gone and everyone was buzzed. The next 3 hours were spent between 2 to 3 bars. That resulted in the entire group devolving into a drunken, belligerent mess. Once the bars closed, most people went home with the exception of myself, Barb, Ricky, and another couple who came back to our apartment for a nightcap. Once back at our place, the couple only lasted another 20 minutes before calling it and making their way home. So I was left with Barb and friggin' Ricky. Earlier in the night at the hookah bar, I noticed Barb checking her phone more than usual and simultaneously Ricky checking his phone after she would lock the screen. I almost put 2 and 2 together, but why would I worry about them planning anything shady 2 days before I was supposed to marry this girl? Back at my house, I was fairly sober and noticed all the booze was gone. So I was contemplating picking up a couple of 6-packs from a local spot that stays open until 3 a.m. Barb and Ricky were definitely on the liquor and tanked, but there was no reason to suspect anything sketchy would occur if I ran out for 20 minutes. Once in my car and preparing to exit my apartment complex, I got a sinking feeling in my gut that something wasn't right, and it completely freaked me out. So I called my best bud and he agreed to be picked up and join me on the beer run and accompany me back to the apartment. After grabbing some bud heavies and returning home, we walked up to the sliding glass door that led to my living room that had a sectional to the immediate right. We opened the door, took 2 steps inside the apartment, and my ex-fiancé was completely topless and mounted on Mr. Ricky, effing tonsil deep down each other's throats. The amazing part of the situation was neither of them appeared to notice that my buddy and I were 10 feet away watching their sloppy drunken escapades. After 7 to 10 seconds of attempting to comprehend the situation, I lost it, dropped the booze, threw her backward off Ricky completely topless, and landed 2 hard right hooks to Ricky's eye and cheek while he was still laying on his back with the most terrified look on his face. To put things in perspective, I am 6 feet, 220 pounds, and have played hockey my entire life. He is 5'6", 140 pounds, and a runner. Immediately following the assault with my fist, Ricky started snoring. Didn't know this was a thing, and was asleep for at least 5 minutes while I was losing my mind over the situation. Without thinking, I called her parents about 10 times until they woke up and demanded they come pick up their cheating daughter immediately. Their house was only 5 minutes down the road, so they walked in shortly thereafter while I was laying into Barb about her unforgivable, disgusting decision. Her parents frantically walked into me screaming at Barb, Ricky passed out on the couch, and my buddy mediating the situation. The first thing I told everyone was the wedding was effing off. I demanded the ring back and said I'd rather lose $20,000 than spend the rest of my life with a cheating bee. Her parents spent the next 20 minutes attempting to talk me out of it, and occasionally defending Barb's actions, saying things like, "Why can't you forgive her?" or "Isn't it too late to cancel the wedding?" Meanwhile, Ricky woke up and the right side of his face had swollen to the size of a grapefruit, and his left eye was completely shut. Kicking him out of the apartment was tough because he was too drunk to drive, so I called his brother that was 20 minutes away and spent that time laying into Barb, Ricky, and her parents. Surprisingly, I was able to stay level-headed enough to express my thoughts in such an extreme state of rage. The few times I've been this upset in the past, my brain felt like it was scrambled and I had a hard time condensing and forming my thoughts into logical statements. Not this time. By the time Ricky's brother picked him up and Barb's parents shuttled her home, I had systematically picked apart any objection, opinion, or plea for reconsideration expressed by everyone in the room. It felt really effing great. I'm not going to pretend the following months were easy and everything worked out in my favor. 2 months later, the pharma company I worked at decided to lay off my entire division. I had racked up thousands in credit card debt to pay for the wedding. Unemployment haunted me for 5 months, and I was diagnosed with major depression. Life was effed up for a few years, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But now I am 31. Things have settled down, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. Okay, OP, I've gotta say, you've got a solid spine. Calling off the wedding right there. No questions, no nothing. She cheated, grossly by the way, and it's done. It's off. 2 days before the wedding, there's no wedding. And what's up with her parents and those idiotic questions? Why can't you forgive her? Forgive her? She was drunk effing that piece of human trash in your house. Isn't it too late to cancel the wedding? It's never too late to cancel the wedding when something like this happens. Now, regarding hitting Ricky, I'm a little bit conflicted because considering he got what he had coming, he could have also sued you for assault and battery, and that's never a good thing. But still, he totally deserved it. Unfortunately, there isn't an update to this story because, well, it's a closed story. However, I did curate some more information from OP's responses to any comments and questions, so let's continue with that. I received no compensation from her family to cover any wedding expenses, but they aren't exactly well off, so I wasn't expecting anything at all. The engagement ring was a tough one because although I paid about $1,700 for it a year prior, Barb managed to beat the ever-living crap out of it during that time. She managed to crack a small diamond on the left side and scratch up the white gold on the outside. I took it to 4 or 5 different jewelers for an appraisal, and the best offer I received was $100. So I just accepted and used that money to buy tickets to see the Black Dahlia murder in Philly. Worth it. I'm definitely much happier these days. Cognitive behavioral therapy was fantastic for a year in conjunction with some meds that I still take just in case. Life circumstances improved drastically as well, so it's been a bumpy ride, but I'm cruising along. The only red flag I saw previously happened about 6 months prior to the wedding, and in hindsight, I should have walked away instead of waiting. We all were out at the bars, sitting around a large table, drinking pitchers and chatting. I was on the opposite side of the table from Barb and Ricky, who were sitting next to each other. But that was no big deal, I was hanging out with other friends. During the course of the night, I noticed some shady things like secluding themselves from the group conversation, paying me no attention, talking secretly to each other at close range, etc. After the bars closed, I drove Barb back to her parents' house and said goodnight, but felt like something was off all night. So I went to Wawa and got some food and circled back to the apartment complex to play private investigator. I dropped her off around 2:15 a.m. and around 3:05 a.m. I see the unmistakable 2004 Audi S4 with electric blue paint and black wheels making its way towards her apartment. Ricky parks out front and waits. Meanwhile, I'm about 100 feet away to his left having heart palpitations, and a minute later, out walks Barb in a new outfit and happily strolling to his car. That's when I threw it in reverse, switched on my high beams and floored it directly towards Ricky's driver's side door to announce my presence. Neither of them knew how to react, obviously, but their excuse was that they both just needed someone to talk to, and I have nothing to worry about. Well, that didn't go over well. Ricky was told to F off back to his mom's basement, and I decided to sleep over at Barb's to ensure he didn't show up again. It took a few weeks to reconcile with Ricky, but they both assured me over and over that I had nothing to worry about going forward. Well, apparently I did, mother effers. In my case, it never crossed my mind to think, but I love her, I can't lose her, she's the best thing that has ever happened in my life. For some reason, my brain is good at compartmentalizing thoughts and feelings when it comes to relationships. It's sad to see so many people stuck in toxic relationships and can't bring themselves to move on. Regarding Barb, well, she lost her core group of friends after they found out she cheated on me. Then cheated on the next 3 to 4 boyfriends, dropped out of grad school, still lives with her parents, and makes far less money than I do. She apologized for a couple of weeks, but I cut her off after I found someone to sublet our apartment about a month after the incident. The only explanation I received was, "I was drunk," or "we were totally blackout drunk." Neither were comforting, so I moved on. Regarding Ricky, he did not call the cops, partly because he felt horrible about the situation and knew he deserved it. He apologized profusely and said he totally understands my reaction and hesitancy to rekindle the friendship. About 2 years ago, he called me and we talked for 2 hours or so, and ultimately, I decided to forgive him. We don't hang out anymore, but I've seen him a dozen times randomly the last couple of years. No hard feelings. Like I said, he's forgiven, but we don't hang anymore, and that's my choice. My advice to you guys: find the strength to speak up if you're feeling uneasy about something your significant other is doing on their end. If you let everything that bothers you slide and they are the type of crapbird who you suspect of cheating, they'll find ways to take advantage of that lack of accountability. Honestly, you're much better off being thoughtful and direct when communicating with your significant other than holding back your concerns about questionable behavior. You're worth it, and if you uncover infidelity or something related, you'll be so thankful for confronting your significant other and taking appropriate action instead of finding out 5 years from now. And that's all the information we have about this story. I don't think I'm leaving any loose ends, but in any case, there's not much we can do about it. So how about we move on to the next story? It doesn't happen often that a cheating spouse gets humiliated by the affair partner, but when it happens, it's great. So on that point, this one is from Anonymous Annie 5523. Cheating husband gets shamed by mistress in the most hilarious way. About 7 years ago, I was a new hire at my second hotel. I'd known the system and how to handle some BS situations by this point, so I really wasn't being trained too thoroughly at this property. Which I quickly found out was a good thing, because many of their associates were hired less than 3 months before me. Not one member of their front desk or night audit staff had been there a full year yet, and it wasn't because people were getting promoted. So it was my third day on the job, and while I don't remember the rest of that shift, I do remember the last 10 minutes quite vividly. We were incredibly slow and everyone was standing around bored. We'd already finished everything and were just waiting out the clock. Our trainer looks at me and the other new trainee and says we can go home if we wanted. She would wait for night audit to come in by herself since we had no check-ins left. The other trainee didn't argue this. She just snatched her purse and practically ran for the time clock, punched out and ran out the closest door while shouting across the lobby, "Have a good night." I double-checked with my trainer to see if she needed anything else. She said she was fine and I grabbed my backpack and headed for the time clock as well. It's important to note that the time clock for this hotel was in the laundry room on the opposite side of the hotel. You had to cross the entire lobby, bar, and dining area, go down the hall past the public restrooms, then past the elevators, then housekeeping and laundry on the left. As I'm walking across the dining area, I hear the elevators open and chime, "Going up?" Out walks a man, not older than 60, completely naked, censoring himself with one hand and walking down the hall towards me. I know most people would have frozen by this point, probably panicked or screamed because, oh god, bare skin! I just looked at him with wide-eyed confusion and thought, what drugs did your doctor give you? I guess he saw my look and became embarrassed because after we made eye contact, he quickly turned the corner into the public restrooms and hid there. I never missed a step through all of the silent eye contact, and when I saw he went into the restrooms, I somewhat became suspicious and thought that maybe he wasn't all there mentally and was looking to scare women in the ladies' room. So I rushed up and peeked around the corner fast enough to see that he instead went into the man's room. Immediate thought that I chose to run with was, not my problem, I'm too new for this. I walked to the laundry room, checked out, and went to the desk and told my trainer what I witnessed, thinking that she would know what to do and how to handle this. She doesn't. She immediately starts panicking. She starts freaking out and thinks that he's a pervert looking to hurt or scare women. I told her he was in the men's room and he made eye contact with me and ignored me. So my best guess was that he was either not all there mentally or on something. She started asking me what she should do and if we should call our GM. I told her she should start by getting the man a blanket to cover up with and ask him if he's alright. She agreed and ran to do just that while panicking the whole time. I chose to stick around to see what happened. My trainer goes and gets him a blanket and I took a seat in the dining area, closed at that hour, and started pretending to play on my phone while I eavesdropped to make sure she was handling this alright. She comes to me later and says, "I'm going to get him a key to his room. He said he got locked out. How do you get locked out completely naked?" I jokingly responded, "Angry mistress?" We both had a chuckle. She made him a key and confirmed details with him before handing it over. He went to his room and that's when our night audit person arrived. I left at that point and went home. The next day, I found out my joke was very accurate. I was told that shortly after he went up, she came down. The woman had her bags packed and was in baggy clothes, hair a mess, and makeup ruined by tears. She asked the night audit that if the man in her room comes asking for her, we are to say we didn't see her. The night audit, who had not yet been informed of the previous situation, asked if she was alright and if she was in danger. She told our night audit that the man in her room was her boss. She was his secretary. Same story you hear about. They've been shacking up on business trip. He's bought her everything she ever wanted. He always told her that he would leave his wife for her because she makes him happy, etc. So when she finds out she's pregnant and tells him the joyous news, he's not happy. He tells her he can't leave his wife right away like this because it'll cause a huge scandal in the office and make him look bad. Then tells her she should just terminate it and they can try again when they're together out in the open. Big mistake. She gets upset, starts crying, accuses him of never loving her or wanting to really be with her. He just used her. He tries to calm her down, still pushing for the termination and keep it a secret. So she agrees. She tells him she will and actually does calm down, makes him think she's happy with him and will do anything for him. They start to get passionate, and as she strips him, she walks him to the front door. He doesn't notice until she's pushing him out the door completely naked. He stands there covering himself and beating the door, begging her to let him back in. She ignores him and packs her things. She then heard him take the elevator, so she took the stairs. She could hear my training talking with him at the elevator, and so she waited until he was gone to come out and go to the desk. She then told the night audit that she was on her way to the airport to book the fastest flight home on his dime and plans to tell his wife everything. She even said she plans to get a lawyer and sue him for child support and bleed him dry. The night audit then gave her some good advice. Look into the secretaries that came before you. You may not be the only one, which means his company may know and she could get something out of them by threatening to expose him. That, or he'd lose his job. She was a happy guest and left the hotel in her Uber right as the man came off the elevator and charged for the front desk. He asked the night audit if he'd seen a woman fitting her description, and the night audit said no, he hadn't seen anyone. The man asked about the Uber that just left, and the night audit said it was an associate going home for the night. The man panicked and said that the woman had his phone and wallet. The night audit, concerned that the woman was a con artist and had lied, started asking the man for some more details. The man admitted that she wasn't his wife but was in his room, and then realized he stepped in it. He then couldn't keep his story straight and started changing details. The night audit just played along and promised to keep an eye out. The next morning, the man checked out furiously, screaming in the GM's face about how the associates let a thief leave the property with his items and travel across the country on his time. The GM, knowing the full story, apologized for the situation and offered to call the police. Said they should have been called from the start. There was a naked man running loose on the property. The man stormed off red-faced after that, and everyone got a laugh. We never heard from him again. I hope the secretary got a nice fat settlement to raise that baby on. Well, I do hope she exposed him to his wife and got the whole affair out in the open, that he lost his job and everything. However, she is the affair partner and she knew he was married, so she doesn't get off free. She isn't a victim here. She knew what she was doing and she got pregnant from it. In my opinion, they both suck. Different levels of sucking, but they both suck. What about you guys? What do you think about this whole deal? And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.